Amazing. Good morning, folks. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Courtney Verano. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the Deputy Director of Movement Building at Family Forward Oregon. Thank you for being here this morning to shed light on the negative ramifications of the potential 5% budget cuts across all agencies, including the Department of Early Learning and Care, or DELC. Bottom line, the Oregon legislature has historically underfunded child care systems, leading to unaffordable care for families and a lack of support for providers facing industry-wide low wages. Proposed agency budget cuts to DELC and the employment-related daycare program would be detrimental to Oregon families who rely on these critical services. Today, you will hear stories from parents, Child Care for Oregon Coalition member organizations, and Representatives Jules Walters, Ricky Ruiz, and the newly appointed Representative Designate Lamar Wise. After our speakers, we will have a few minutes for Q&A, and if you have any additional follow-up questions, folks will be here and available. So with that, please help me welcome our first speaker, Kaliko Castile from Apano.
Aloha and good morning, everyone. My name is Kaliko Castile. I am the Political Director at Apano Communities United Fund and Apano Action Fund. I'm also the co-chair for the Child Care for Oregon Coalition. I'm a father of two amazing humans, which drives the work that I do at the Child Care for Oregon Coalition every day. And we're here this morning to talk about the state agencies who had released their proposed budget of 5% budget cuts across the board, which will directly impact Oregonians already taking the biggest hit from the Trump administration's H.R. 1 and the government shutdown. Our state leaders should be acting in a proactive way to stop the bleeding. Our communities are deeply suffering from food insecurity caused by the lapse in SNAP and benefits to Head Start causing lapses to SNAP benefits and closures to Head Start from the government shutdown. Instead, lawmakers are proposing cuts that will disproportionately hurt children and families already suffering, including single moms, Black, Brown, Indigenous folks, and people living in low or no income households. Our state's child care subsidy program, the employment-related daycare, has been long underfunded, causing families and child care providers to shoulder the burden. We have to stop this, and we have to stop doing this to families and to child care workers. Now is not the time to be divesting in the workforce behind the workforce and further decimating it. Now is the time to be investing in it. At a minimum, Oregon lawmakers can and must appropriate funds through the Rainy Day Fund to bridge this funding gap. We urge you to restore the Department of Early Learning and Care's budget and fund the employment-related daycare program's projected shortfall before the program runs out of money in January 2027. It is a rainy day for ERDC, and that moment that we are in right now is exactly why the fund exists. The child care crisis touches families across all of Oregon, urban and rural alike, negatively impacting our economy, our communities, and our children's future. We can do things differently, and we must start today. I'd like to go ahead and introduce Representative Jules Walters, who will be the next speaker.
Thank you, Kaliko, and thank you to Family Forward and everybody who's here today for inviting me. I'm honored to be here. My name is Jules Walters, and I'm the state representative for House District 37, which includes Tualatin and West Lynn, and where families are calling my office every day with deep concerns. The concern I hear most often is that the cost of living is too high. People are struggling to make ends meet. A significant part of this is the cost of childcare, which should be treated as a public service, just like our libraries, our schools, and our fire stations. I'm here today to express my dismay about the budget deficit for the Department of Early Learning and Care and Employment-Related Daycare ERDC program. While I understand that the Oregon legislature, my colleagues and I, must make challenging budget decisions right now because our federal government has put us in this position, I strongly believe that we must prioritize investments in our young children and families. What could be more important than ensuring our youngest Oregonians are cared for? and that the people caring for them are compensated and can keep their doors open. The proposed budget cuts millions of dollars from programs that serve children and families, representing an additional reduction from the current service level and a step backward from the divestments made in the 2025 legislative session. The struggle to find affordable and accessible childcare is a real concern for parents across the state, and it's particularly pronounced in rural communities. Childcare has become an increasingly difficult service to provide because it just doesn't pencil out for the childcare providers. In many rural communities, there are no care options at all, and I hear about these challenges almost daily in my district as well. It's simple. If we want to build a stronger economy in Oregon, we must continue to make investments in our early learning and childcare system. We know that when parents have stable access to childcare, it's a win-win for families and our state's economy. Job absences decrease by 30%, and turnover can decline by 60%. Because Oregon is a state that heavily relies on income tax revenue, we need to remove barriers that prevent people from entering the workforce. I urge my colleagues to consider the long-term consequences of these cuts. If we don't fund ERDC, we will see many parents leaving the workforce and making difficult decisions about whether to pay their rent, pay for childcare, or buy groceries. There's another path forward. In the 2026 legislative session, we can stop the bleeding and ensure that the ERDC program can continue serving families beyond January 2027. In fact, targeted investments that support families are what is needed right now. An investment in ERDC in the 2026 legislative session would only be approximately 5% of Oregon's rainy day fund, but would have an immeasurable impact on the parents, children, and child care providers who rely on this program. Let's fix this budget. Let's do better. Let's do the best we can for Oregon's youngest children and their families. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Walters. Next up, I'd like to invite Natalie Kaya, a current ERDC parent. Please welcome Natalie.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Natalie Kaya. I'm a mom of 4 kids, ages 9, 5, and 2. We live in the Portland metro area. I'm here today to talk about something that has kept me up for many nights, and that would be the cost of childcare and how it has held so many families, including mine, hostage for so many years. Right now, ERDC helps cover the cost of full-time childcare for my 2-year-old, after-school care, and no school days, like yesterday, for my 3 older kids. I earn about 100% above the federal poverty line, and yet, without ERDC support, childcare costs would exceed my take-home income. I simply could not work or keep a roof over my children's heads. And that's not some dramatic hypothetical story or idea. That is a reality that actually happened. In March 2023, I went over the annual income threshold for ERDC by about $2,000. Just like that, I was kicked out of the program. I lost the stipend or the subsidy, and overnight, our economic stability collapsed. I could not afford rent and childcare at the same time. Within weeks, my kids and I were living in a family homeless shelter. I see and feel what it means to be stuck and trapped in the cycle of poverty, no matter how hard I work to get us out of it. 2 months later, I was added back into ERDC, but that was only because I had become homeless and had spent 2 months not working full time. This system is built so that you have to completely break before you can get the help that will help you. And then the moment we start to recover, it knocks us back down again, even worse than before. With ERDC, I was able to rebuild our entire life. I'm super proud to share that I work full-time with Oregon Food Bank. I also own a home now. And I do my best to keep food on our table, which is also hard. But This is not just my story, it's the story of thousands of Oregonians. Right now, more than 12,000 Oregon families rely on ERDC, and another 1,300 plus families are on the wait list with no end in sight. This is a broken child care system that forces parents, especially moms, especially single moms, to choose between working and feeding our kids, between keeping a job and keeping our families housed. Childcare drives poverty. Without affordable childcare, we can't work, which means we can't pay rent and pay the bills, we can't keep food on the table. It's all deeply connected. That's why cutting DELC's budget or allowing ERDC to run out of money cannot be an option for the legislature. It's raining right now for Oregon families, and this is what the Rainy Day Fund is for. We are demanding lawmakers to have courage and show we are demanding lawmakers show the courage and common sense to use whatever means necessary, including tapping into just a fraction, 5%, is that what I heard, of the Rainy Day Fund that Oregon has. We're not asking for charity, we're asking for an investment in our kids, in our families, in Oregon's economy. Affordable childcare is not a luxury. It's essential to the economic security of Oregonians and the success of the state as a whole. I'm here today not just to share a bit of my story, but to demand action. We will be in Salem, holding events, making calls, meeting with legislators, organizing moms and caregivers across the state. Because our children deserve better, our families deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, Natalie. I got chills. We so appreciate you being here to share your story and call to action to Oregon lawmakers. Speaking of said lawmakers, I would now like to invite State Representative Designate Lamar Wise to share a few words.
All right, good morning. My name is Lamar Wise, and I am the State Representative Designate for House District 48, proudly representing the people of East Portland and North Clackamas. Many people have already joked that I'm stepping into this role at a time what some might call fun, right in the middle of looming child care collapse and implementation of Trump's federal budget cuts to SNAP and Medicaid. Trump's budget is not just dangerous, it's a betrayal. It slashes $1 billion from Oregon's state budget for this biennium and also erases $15 billion in federal support over the next 6 years. These cuts will negatively impact services that my district and Oregonians rely on: the Oregon Health Plan, SNAP, employment-related daycare, and our schools. And who pays the price? Not billionaires, not corporations. It's our kids, our care workers, and working families. I know I'm new to this seat, but I'm not new to this fight. I've seen how child care shortages don't just hurt parents, they hurt our businesses, our schools, and our economy. When parents can't work because they can't find or afford child care, like we just heard, we see loss of wages, lost productivity, and lost opportunity. And here's the kicker: we don't have to accept this. We can stop the bleeding before we start cutting. We can choose to close tax loopholes that pad the pockets of the wealthiest corporations and investors, and redirect those resources to real infrastructure for our communities. Things like childcare, healthcare, schools, and housing. This isn't about politics, it's about economic survival. Every dollar we redirect from billionaire tax breaks, it is a dollar that is kept at families to keep them fed, to keep kids in school, and also to make sure that we have workers on the job. So let me say this to my colleagues in the legislature: we must choose a different path. We can and must choose a different path to protect our folks, to protect our own. I'm here to make sure that no parent in House District 48 or anywhere in Oregon has even the option or going through the struggle of choosing between their job or childcare. I'm here to make sure that our economy doesn't collapse because the wealthy rules. With that being said, it's our time to bet on Oregonians and fight back. And I'm ready to fight for every kid, every worker, and every family who's counting on us. And I thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative-designate Wise. We are so excited to see you entering the legislature and to continue to honor the work and legacy of child care champion, former State Representative Hua Wen. Now I have the pleasure of inviting State Representative Ricky Ruiz to the podium.
I should have, well, first of all, good morning, everybody. Sorry I was running a little late, actually. I was dropping off my kiddo at a child care facility, the most affordable child care option that we found, which was $1,400 a month. And I can only imagine, if I'm struggling as a lawmaker, I can only imagine how our constituents are struggling across the state. My name is Ricky Ruiz. I'm a state representative to House District 50, which covers Gresham and a little bit of East Portland. And I'm proud to stand with the people of Portland, Gresham, Troutdale, Wood Village, Fairview, you name it, who are continuing on with the fight for their futures. Let me be clear, any cut to critical services is not just a line item. It's an economic security and well-being of every single Oregonian. A family can't afford their health care. A student loses access to quality education. A child goes to bed hungry. A worker loses their job, not because of the economy, but because of bad policies. Now let's name the real enemy here, Trump's economic warfare on working families. He's not cutting budgets, he's harming our children's future. He's not balancing ledges. He's handing out $42,000 tax cuts to the richest 1% while working families get $70. And because Oregon ties our tax code to the federal one, we're being forced to pay for his greed. ERDC's more than $100 million shortfall, 5% cuts to early learning, SNAP and Medicaid on the chopping block. This isn't fiscal responsibility, it's an economic sabotage. But here's the truth. Real economic development doesn't start with corporate handouts. It starts with fairness. When the wealthiest corporations and investors pay their fair share, not tax loopholes, we can fund structure that actually grows our economy. Small businesses don't need more tax breaks for billionaires. They need customers who can afford to shop locally. When families lose SNAP, that's fewer dollars at the grocery store. When parents can't afford childcare, that's fewer workers and fewer customers. Protecting these programs isn't a charity. It's an economic strategy. It's a no-brainer. Oregon has a choice. We can rubber stamp Trump's giveaways to the ultra-wealthy, or we can decouple from the federal tax giveaways, reclaim our tax code, and invest into the people who power our economy. The Oregon House of Representatives proudly voted to remove ourselves from the tax code during the 2025 session. But our friends in the Senate, I was going to say a bad word, did not have the guts to take it on. We've done it before in tough times. We stood together and come out stronger, and we can do it again. So let me say this loud and clear. I will always choose Oregon families over wealthy donors. I will always choose childcare over corporate loopholes, especially right now. I will always choose economic justice over economic warfare. Because real recovery doesn't come from tax cuts for the rich. It comes in investing in people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning, Representative. And finally, we are going to close out this morning with my Executive Director of Family Forward, Candace Williams.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, I like that. My name is Candace Williams. My pronouns are she and her. As the mom of two and the executive director of Family Forward Oregon, I'm here to say that the Trump administration and congressional Republicans didn't just pass a budget. They passed what Representative Wise just shared is a betrayal. They passed H.R. 1, which is a tax bill. And it's a tax bill that slashes nearly $1 billion from Oregon's state budget over the next 2 years. That's $1 billion that could be going to kids and families, that could be staying here and going to Oregonians. And because Oregon automatically ties our tax code to the federal one, that means that we're on the hook. We're on the hook for cuts to the Oregon Health Plan, to SNAP, to child care, to housing, to early education. Over the next decade, that means more than $15 billion in federal funding and state revenue will vanish from our state. Meanwhile, the richest corporations and investors get even more tax breaks in Oregon if the legislature chooses cuts first over ending unnecessary corporate welfare and even greater tax breaks for the ultra wealthy. Let me say that again. Our kids' health care, our seniors' food, our workers' child care are all on the chopping block simply to allow billionaires to keep their loopholes, their houses, and their cars. And now, here at home, our lawmakers are reviewing plans that would make 5% cuts across every single agency here, including the Department of Early Learning and Care. DELC's budget was already cut by 3.5% earlier this year. We already have a wait list with thousands of Oregonians on it. And now that program, ERDC, that helps working families like Natalie's afford childcare is facing more than a $100 million shortfall. That means something that's been in this state for decades could run out of money in January of 2027. We are here to tell you it's on fire, it is raining. That's not a budget crisis, that is a moral crisis. That is a choice. But here's the truth. We don't have to accept this. We can disconnect from our federal tax giveaways to out-of-state corporations and wealthy investors and reclaim our tax code here in Oregon. Bring it back to Oregonians. We can strategically use rainy day funds to stabilize child care subsidies, school funding, elder care, and affordable housing, the real infrastructure that our families need to survive and succeed. It's not about numbers, this is about values. This is about who we choose to protect and who we choose to sacrifice. Will we sacrifice our children and our seniors, or will we be loud? Let's be clear. Let's tell our lawmakers you cannot balance the budget on the backs of our kids, of our seniors, or our working families. We demand better. We deserve better. And we will fight together until every Oregonian can not only survive here, but thrive here. Thank you.
That concludes our speakers for this morning, and we do have a few minutes remaining for some questions, if there are any.
What do you want people to do to get involved? How can somebody watching this, how can they get involved and help?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing that they can do is actually join our coalition, Child Care for Oregon. You can go to childcarefororegon.org, sign up, get on our emailing list. Natalie's right. We are going to be in Salem, walking the halls. We're going to be making calls, giving testimony, bringing out our friends and family. This is too important to sit back and see what happens. Parents, providers, community members, we're going. We're going to the halls of the capital, of our capital, and we're demanding better for our families.
and Sophie, well, both of our reps, I guess, here, three of them, counting. We'll all be in Salem next week for legislative days. You're gonna get the revenue forecast on Wednesday. You're gonna have an idea of the state's economic outlook.